Welcome to another episode of Second Take. It's holiday season, so, I'm in a relaxed mode. Of course, I'm wearing a suit and tie. Why? Because I'm still, dealing with the residue of the Namibian election. So let's wrap it up with this episode.
Santa has a festive surprise for you. Starting 2nd December, unwrap the magic of Christmas with our Advent calendar. Spot the Christmas globes in your favorite newspapers from Monday to Friday. Scan the QR code or WhatsApp hashtag Advent Calendar 24 to the Synergy chatbot. Find the Christmas globes on NTV. Or visit our Facebook pages for daily Advent doors from Monday to Saturday. Win daily prizes. Lucky winners will be contacted and Logistics Hub Namibia will deliver your prize. Merry Christmas from Santa and his proud prize sponsors.
So, the Namibian elections came and went, and my oh my. In the last episode you saw we definitely had issues with the Electoral Commission of Namibia, and so did just about anybody. You had that much time to prepare. You said you had 3 million ballots, and, people still found themselves in queues for hours on end. There was so much disorganization. But the election came and went. Toivo Ndjebela is the president-elect of Namibia. But before I talk about her, I just want to give some unsolicited advice to the other parties. Not all of them. I don't have time to go through the full list. But, the parties who managed to garner some significant seats, so to speak. Let's start with PDM, Popular Democratic Movement. Yeah. You used to be the official opposition party. That has come to an end. You're going to have to figure out, how to not be the official opposition party and perhaps how to, regain your support base. It was a tough run, but 5 seats is a whopping. Everybody's talking about how SWAPO has lost seats, but for PDM, this was a real lashing. And Vinani is going to need to start, getting into those people's houses and start campaigning again, grassroots campaigns. Start early, start now. I don't know if you still have the mileage for another political campaign, but right now it seems like PDM is on the verge of political obscurity. So you're going to want to keep an eye on that. AR, they're going to be very happy. They've got what they've wanted. And in fact, if you're on Twitter, you see Namibians tweeting over and over and over again that I want Mpanda in parliament. I don't want him to be president. And it was reflected. People clearly wanted AR in parliament because Mpanda is confrontational. And, as I've said before, I think you'd make an excellent anti-corruption commissioner. But now this is the time where he gets to really express his values, challenge folks in an official manner, and perhaps grow that support base of AR because their rallies were a little dismal, and that's being kind. So AR, let's see what you do with it. You've made it into the big room. IPC currently challenging the election, understandably, given the EC, and not challenging the full election. They just want access to see how things actually transpired, and then they'll make a decision after that, which is fair and fine. But it was a good run from IPC, Rongo region. They wanted to establish that as their stronghold. I think they managed to do that. They managed to secure over 20 seats. Kudos to you. Not so good is not having your leader in parliament. So what is it going to be? Endless press releases, media briefings? Come on. That was a bad move by IPC. It makes no sense for Itula not to be in parliament, challenging the powers that be, and of course trying to convince us that he too won't be getting any older in the next 5 years. Landless People's Movement also took some huge L's, particularly to SWAPO. They're also challenging the election in the same manner that IPC is. I remember at some point Bernardo SWAPO had said that if he doesn't win the election has been rigged. Come on, buddy. So yeah, I think at the next Landless People's Movement meeting, let's start with realistically, establishing where we are by ourselves and with the Namibian people, and then we kind of we move up from there. It's hard for the landless people's movements like message to stand out because, that's essentially the same message as affirmative repositioning and NEFF. So now they need to be much more robust, try and get those seats at the north as well. Move away from the south, not move away from the south, but the south is supposed to be a stronghold, but clearly you need stronger links elsewhere. So now's the time to do that. Now, the ruling party, SWAPO, as a party, SWAPO keeps losing way more seats than they would like to. It's going to be interesting how they deal with these next couple of years. Of course, they've had 34 years at the helm. So basically, all they can say is we're going to improve, we're going to do better. As for their candidate, Toivo Ndjebela, I'll be very honest, I was expecting a more motherly tone, unifying tone, something presidential when she first spoke, when she had her victory speech. But, there was a lot of finger pointing, this and that person tried to assassinate me, etc. And I didn't fall, she didn't fall, that's what she says. I hear all of that, but where's our president? Where's our mother? It's time for her to show up and to lead, not to necessarily find herself in the mud as she is right now, nitpicking on things. We need someone to assure us that, things are going to be moving smoothly going forward. And we're really looking forward to that. And, for any girls who are looking up to Toivo Ndjebela saying, I want to be just like her. Yes, you too can now become president at the fresh age of 72. This is Second Take. I had a chat about this in the last episode of Election Watch as we were going through the results with Toivo Ndjebela, and that is the rest of the show. From me, Ashwyn Mberi. Cheers. I'm joined by Ashwyn Mberi and Toivo Ndjebela. Toivo, we are at the end of the journey for elections, the beginning of a new journey for the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it has been an incredibly interesting period. I think a momentous occasion for our country. We have now our president, our next president, female, and people are now looking forward to whether she will bring that motherly aura to the country. People saying, we've had 4 men leading the country. Some have done well, some not so well. How about a mother to lead the Namibian House? And we want to see, first and foremost, really congratulations to Toivo Ndjebela, who has a very interesting political career. In fact, I think one thing that people do not remember is that in 2009, she didn't make it at the SWAPO Electoral College, where members of parliament are elected. She was very far. At that time, the Rally for Democracy and Progress had just been created, and a lot of leaders in the party were from Angwena, and people started accusing her of links to that party, and I think she paid a price for those perceptions at the Electoral College. But President Pohamba at the time was gracious enough to return her. And since then, she's been steady on her feet.
Yes.
And today, she is president-elect of Namibia.
Yes, without a doubt. And interesting that you mentioned that, because it sounds quite similar to the story of the late, great Dr. Hageji Geingob,
Yes.
who himself found himself at odds with SWAPO, came back and managed to lead the party to victory.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes. So we are here to get into the details
Yes.
of the results. Before we get into the presidential results, and we'll also have some word from Toivo Ndjebela. She was speaking about sticking to the SWAPO manifesto, and we'll see how all of that transpires. Let's get into the National Assembly results. These are how they look. Of course, you can see it's a graph with representation from each of the 14 regions of Namibia. Looking at SWAPO, 53.37%. That was their regional total over there, followed by IPC, 20.20%. Keep in mind, all of these numbers are consistent with the numbers of the Electoral Commission of Namibia. Just behind the PDM, so in fact, just behind IPC, you've got AR 6.61% in the regions, PDM 5.48%, LPM 5.21%. And the numbers start dwindling from there. UDF 1.54%, looking at NEFF 1.07%, RP exactly 1%, APP 0.66%, BCP 0.53%, NDP 0.61%, RDP 0.30%, NUDO 0.98%, NEFC 0.29%, and UDF 1.54%. And these are the regional totals that we are looking at. What's your first thoughts when you look at that, Toivo?
Yeah, I think it's a real battering for the ruling party. It's a further decline.
Is it a battering by the opposition, or did they beat themselves?
No, I mean, if you look, and we'll come to that stage where we'll also look at where the opposition got their seats from. We know, for example, that IPC got about six of their seats from SWAPO.
Yes.
AR also took some from them. The thing is that on Monday I did say on the show that this was a vote. How do they say? Benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
Victory.
Benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, where people are saying, look, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt one last time, perhaps. And if you do it correctly in 2029, we'll take care of you. But now we are simply saying that because, like I've been saying all these days, there's nothing in particular that happened in the last 5 years that we would say gave SWAPO gave people the confidence to vote for SWAPO. Maybe it's part of it is the lack of alternatives, clear alternatives to lead the country.
Could have been a sentimental vote on the passing of the president as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And secondly is perhaps people saying, look, because again I keep saying that SWAPO has done very well in the past at some stage.
Yes.
And people know that the party can actually, if it gets serious, if it introspects itself properly, it can go back to those levels. So this looks like people saying, look, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you can actually self-correct. But I think in fairness, the SWAPO leaders also seem to have accepted that reality. Because if you look at the subdued reaction last night, and Netumara Ndaitwah was not as jovial as you would expect. We didn't see many people really hooting and
ululating, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think those in the party that are aware of what is happening know that these are very worrying signs.
Yes.
These are humbling outcomes. And therefore, to celebrate would be foolhardy. So I understand why the reaction has been subdued. And I hope really that they take that humility with them throughout the year to say, look, or throughout the term now to say, look, people are sending us serious signals. They want things to be done differently, and we're just going to do that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and even if you look at just the honesty throughout the entire process for a long time, during the mishaps with the ECN, people didn't expect word from SWAPO, but one of the big wigs, Sangula himself, very straight, stern words. This was in Namibian Sun, and I do think, like you're saying, there's a sense of introspection. And one factor we didn't factor in with regards to the votes, we had to see how the demographics voted, but we know there were more women voting in this election, and there is a lot of meaning attached to having the first female president of Namibia. And as we look at the results, we'll see that Netumbo Ndaitwah performed better than SWAPO, and SWAPO could certainly wish for better results in the future. But talking about a SWAPO which has 51 seats out of 96, and thus the decline is clear to see, and they have much more work to do. Did you feel that sense of urgency in SWAPO's campaign?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I've been talking about in the build-up to this election is that there was something that is not coming out clear in the SWAPO campaign messages. The messaging was off for me because there was no sense of renewal coming from the rhetoric of the party to say, look, we do acknowledge youth unemployment, high levels of poverty, high levels of hunger, and this is especially and I thought it was easier because if it was still Hage Geingob running in this election, but
There's several things you could try tie to.
we say to him, but Mr. President, you are the president now.
Yes.
But Netumana Network could say, look, I'm not president now.
She's the fresh page after the fresh page because there was Nangolo Mbuba, so it's an even cleaner page.
Yes. I mean, she's only VP for a few months.
Yes.
So she couldn't have done much.
No.
And I thought her message would have been to hammer on that point to say, look, I am coming to produce something radically different from what you have seen. That sense of renewal, that sense of acknowledgement of what is happening in the country, that would have been nice. But that was not coming in. There was this message about continuity. The legacy must continue.
Is it fair also to sticking with that continuity? Is it fair also to say that was also reflected in the parliamentary list?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, in fact, for me, the parliamentary list actually spoke. I would have taken advantage of that to say, of course, maybe it's difficult to say publicly, as if you are celebrating the downfall of some of your colleagues.
Yeah.
But it would have been easy to say, look, it is even reflected in our parliamentary list that we are really shifting away from the old politics. We are bringing in new people, new ideas, because this next 5 years we are going to do exactly that.
Yeah.
But we didn't see that messaging coming out.
And speaking of the messaging, and I have to say this because we are part of the Namibian media landscape, and we do boast currently of being the second most press-free country in the world. Hopefully we get back to number one. So I can say this with confidence, or I can share this concern with confidence. I don't believe she engaged our media enough. I saw more, even just from the ECN itself, from yesterday, her interviews with SABC were much more longer, much broader than interviews with private media in Namibia. I mean, what does that say for her campaign in particular? Because if she managed to, and she did manage to leverage what she could leverage, which is her otherwise considered clean political past, the motherhood figure, enough to perform decently herself. But like you're saying, could it be her not voicing ultimately what SWAP was going to do, this SWAPO change, not vibrantly going out there with that information that could have contributed to SWAPO's further decline? Because it felt like there was plenty to speak of for Netumbo, almost nothing to speak of for SWAPO, and it looks reflected in the results itself, that people were like, we're willing to give a woman a chance, but we are kind of going to pretend she's wearing different colors.
Absolutely. I think the focus. I think the campaign team, the way the whole thing was organized, the communication team of the party, I think it was a bit misdirected. I thought that things like bringing in DJ Maporisa from South Africa and all those things.
That was disconnected. And remember, keep in mind, DJ Maporisa comes from South Africa. I work in the entertainment industry. I know his quote is not less than 200,000. You're allowed to challenge me on that. And if you do, you might find it's 500,000. So DJ Maporisa comes from South Africa. That same weekend, Panduleni Itula's last rally is at the North. The North, by the way, where SWAPO has lost, according to SWAPO's own performance, much more than it would have expected to do. And Khomas region, I don't know what DJ Maporisa did for people. And so you're saying, is this being out of touch? And let's not forget Mayor Sophia Shaningo's abrasiveness, because it's fun, it's entertaining until you sit with the responsibility. The responsibility is that you are supposed to share information to the Namibian people in a way that they understand, in a way that they feel included, and most importantly, you are trying to garner votes. You don't have any sense of authority except representing your party's voice. So that would be my criticism with regards to the messaging.
I mean, because we also have to be very, very careful. People ought to know how the media works generally. Also, it's just a global phenomenon that if you go to a rally and the messages that are coming out of a rally is the Secretary General of the party are accusing people of being witches. They are witching the Vice President or things like that.
We're not a banana republic. Those are the kind of rhetorics you expect from a banana republic.
Yes, it's like a fireplace thing in a village. This is a country.
Yes.
And we ought to be hearing consistent messages to say we are aware of this. This is our plan. The manifesto is there. Speak more to the manifesto, expand on the content of the manifesto, so that people really comprehend what you're talking about. The headlines, when they come out the next day, will only quote what you said. But the moment you veer off that and say some little funny things that are interesting to the public, although it's not public interest, that is likely to be picked up. The videos are circulating, and those are the kind of messages that are coming out. It's not correct. But SWAPO has an opportunity to really hit the ground running now. There are many things that are happening in our country, the oil discoveries, green hydrogen, and a really new hype around our country that we ought to take advantage.
But it is an economic hub that SWAPO is certainly pained to lose, without a doubt. So 13 out of 14 regions she cleared, make no mistake. Namibians wanted the meme on the seat.
Yeah, there was no contest. And this is also why I wonder. Of course, there's so many things that we can say about ECN, the way they conducted this election. I mean, people talking about, for example, I have personally never believed that there's been rigging of this election. SWAPO will not rig itself to only slightly 3 seats more than the opposition. So that idea that SWAPO rigged the election, for me, I know that there's been I feel that there's been a lot of interference, and I know that some of the behaviors of the ECN might have influenced results in favor of SWAPO. But I mean, for example, I saw the comment that Nahasangula made in Namibian Sun yesterday. He is saying that if you're going to if you're going to extend voting in some regions, and you only have one political party in the country or two who can bus people into those areas where voting can still continue, then it's unfair to smaller parties who do not have those means.
And this is now Sangula who has SWAPO in his blood.
Yes, former Prime Minister, a legend, a stalwart of SWAPO.
Yes.
And he was just being honest and saying, look, ECN, and he says actually that he's not blaming SWAPO, he's blaming ECN, saying they're tainting SWAPO's victory. So for IPC, I have serious worries about this party. I think the first problem that IPC have is that this idea that their top 4 leaders are not in parliament. Itula, of course, he said you can't stand in both the presidential and National Assembly election. You must only stand in one as a matter of principle. So I could understand if he said, he's going to stick to that principle. But the Secretary General, Christine Achomus, such a trailblazer woman, and I thought she would add weight to the presence of IPC in Parliament. She's not going to Parliament. Sylvester, Mr. Brand Black, the national chairperson, is not there. Trevino Forbes, the VP of the party, is not going to Parliament. Who is going to carry the party in Parliament without their top 4 leaders? It's just unbelievable.
Toivo, you're the editor of a leading newspaper in Namibia. If you're asking who, we all are. And that's really the issue that we're talking about. We don't understand what's on paper, the credibility of these individuals. Is it too late for IPC to change its mind?
Oh, it's a foregone conclusion because their list has already been gazetted by ECN. So they're at the point of no return.
So they can't make hindsight amendments like the president did with the extension of the election. Now
Absolutely not. PDM changed their parliamentary list last year. I mean, in 2019, and they were dragged to court by those that they have removed from the list.
Yes,
and they ended up losing that.
Case. So
the template is already there. You cannot.
That's what it is. Yeah. So that means we're going to be seeing Panteleni Itula walking with his suit in the streets more often than we'll see him in Parliament.
But I mean, in the end, everything rests with ECN. They must produce. They must provide a conducive environment for everybody to show up.
And here's the other thing, Toivo. As much as we can say there was a 33.11% increase in voters, the ECN told us they had 3 million ballots.
Yeah.
By math's not fantastic. But in general, we would have asked them to be much more prepared for this election. We do understand the strain, and look, as Namibia, we do have a few leeway, a little bit of leeway you can give to us. We are a relatively new nation, but really, if we're talking about the way this was conducted, it's hard to argue with what Sangula said.
Look, I mean, it's our 8th general election ever
Yes.
in the history of our country.
Yes.
The first 4 or 5 elections can be shaky.
It's going to be shaky, but this one we're more clear. Eighth is
we ought to be
we
more
ought to
steady.
be on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at some words from the Electoral Commission of Namibia.
My task today is to present the closing remark. Despite the uncertainty that often comes with the hurdles of organizing elections of this magnitude, our hearts as a commission are alive with hope and responsibility to the call of duty. Today we have witnessed not just numbers and names of candidates or political parties, but a tapestry woven with the aspirations of millions of Namibians watching tonight. Each vote cast is a flicker of a dream, a heartbeat, echoing the collective will of the Namibian people. Today marks the conclusion of a very significant chapter in our country's democratic journey. Even when it felt lonely and cold, throughout the nights of result verification and certifications, amid a storm of criticism, the Commission stood firm and unwavering. In the face of choices, the Namibian people embraced their power, forging paths, not just for themselves, but for generations yet to come. Today's presidential and National Assembly election results are not just a tally of winners and losers. They are a true reflection of our democratic values, our social struggles, our undying quest for progress and development. Therefore, I extend my heartfelt thanks to all the contesting candidates and political parties. Your participation in this election has strengthened the very fabric of our electoral democracy. Your commitment.
So there you have it. After several days of voting, Namibia has made its decision. Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah is going to be the president of the Republic of Namibia. SWAPO will continue its run, albeit limping, so to speak, trying to figure out if they can get stronger legs behind them. And literally behind SWAPO is a fresh look on the opposition fray. But with regards to Toivo Ndjebela and Ashwyn Mberi, we've been absolutely honored to bring you Election Watch. Now we can say, #Namibia has decided.